In this video, I'll show you December 18th, 2021. Deputy Carlos De Sousa, Jr. of the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office in Florida pulled over. Driver Miss Boone for allegedly having an invalid license. Miss Boone had been following her sister, Purple Heart Combat veteran Miss Shelley, who also pulled over about 50 feet ahead of the traffic stop. After both vehicles stopped, Deputy De Sousa approached the passenger side of Miss Boone's vehicle.
Go! They can go!
That window doesn't roll.
They need to leave.
Huh?
They,
my sister.
They're gonna leave.
For what? What am I being pulled over for?
161 Santa Rosa.
What's the issue, sir?
I'm explaining to you in a minute, ma'am.
Okay.
Want to roll me another unit, no more response. I'm stopping you to see you. They are not to stop. They are not part of my traffic stop. Okay, let me finish.
I'm following her.
That's okay. She can pull up down the road and wait. She's not going to stay here and wait. She's going to leave. It's not open for conversation, debate. I'm dealing with one person, ma'am. I'm dealing with one person. I'm not dealing with more than one.
She's not dealing with you. She's making.
She's staying right there.
Is okay.
Your safety is fine.
Anything illegal, right?
I promise you, she is.
What is she doing? Though?
She's being told to leave because it's a traffic stop. Right now, this is something I'm doing. She's to leave.
Deputy De Sousa claims that Miss Shelley is not allowed to park her vehicle on the shoulder of the highway during a traffic stop, and that she must leave immediately. Courts generally give police officers wide latitude to control traffic stop scenes and take actions they deem necessary to protect their safety. For instance, in the 1972 case of Colton v. Kentucky, the Supreme Court upheld a disorderly conduct conviction against a citizen who refused to leave a traffic stop when an individual he was traveling with was pulled over, holding that the police could require the citizen to move on, even though, quote, he was not trespassing or disobeying any traffic regulation himself. The court reasoned that, quote, the state has a legitimate interest in enforcing its traffic laws, and its officers were entitled to enforce them free from possible interference or interruption from bystanders, even those claiming a third-party interest in the transaction. Courts have reached similar conclusions in cases involving third parties filming traffic stops. For instance, in the 2014 case of Garrica v. Begin, the First Circuit stated that, quote, the circumstances of some traffic stops might justify a safety measure, for example, a command that bystanders disperse that would incidentally impact an individual's exercise of the First Amendment right to film. Such an order, even when directed at a person who is filming, may be appropriate for legitimate safety reasons. Likewise, in the 2012 case of ACLU of Illinois v. Alvarez, the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals concluded that, quote, it goes without saying that the police may take all reasonable steps to maintain safety and control, secure crime scenes and accident sites, and protect the integrity and confidentiality of investigations. The police may order bystanders to disperse for reasons related to public safety and order and other legitimate law enforcement needs. Given the strong deference courts typically give to police orders given for officer safety, it is likely that a court would determine that Deputy De Sousa was within his authority to require Miss Shelley to leave.
You're the owner of the vehicle, correct?
Yes.
Okay, can I see your license?
Sure.
I just want them to go. So I'm trying to get sick of people to go.
He didn't even ask her to leave.
I'm not going to
He's being very unprofessional.
Hello, can you just go, please?
Well, that's my sister and my niece, so I'm just going to stay here
I
until they're released.
I need you to leave. If you can wait up there, I think.
It's a public road. It's
Okay, I'm
not obstructing traffic.
I'm asking. So you're obstructing this traffic stop. So can you just please?
How am I obstructing it?
Just there's a parking lot up there. Please just go up there.
I'm going to make sure that my sister.
She'll be fine. She'll be fine.
I observe that.
Okay, so Now I am telling you. I'm not asking you. You need to go.
What law am I breaking?
I'm telling you, you need to
I'm
go.
asking you what
Because
law.
it's not safe for you to be here.
Why
Okay.
is it not safe
Because.
to be here?
All right. Are we going to play that? All right. Can I have your ID? Can I have your ID?
Am I being detained?
You are now.
What am I being detained
Because
for?
now I need to identify you.
What am I being
I need to identify you.
Deputy Crawford tells Miss Shelley that she is being detained and is required to show her identification. Section 843.02 of the Florida statutes, which defines the offense of resisting an officer without violence, states that, quote, whoever shall resist, obstruct, or oppose any officer in the lawful execution of any legal duty without offering or doing violence to the person of the officer shall be guilty of a misdemeanor of the first degree, as the United States District Court in the Middle District of Florida explained in the 2005 case of Davis v. Williams, quote, Florida courts have upheld convictions for violations of this statute, where a person was arrested not only for yelling at officers, but for refusing to leave an area where the officers were engaged in a legal duty, and where the officers considered that person's physical presence to constitute an obstruction or impediment to the performance of their duty. In the Davis case, the court concluded that an officer had probable cause to arrest an individual who approached two deputies while they were conducting a traffic stop, spoke to them, and refused to leave after being told to do so at least 3 times. The officers argued that this quote interfered with the traffic stop by not allowing them to complete the citation, by causing them to turn their backs on the driver, and by creating a situation that caused them concern for their safety. While Miss Shelley remained in her vehicle, her presence arguably diverted the officers' attention and caused concerns for officer safety. So it is possible that a court would conclude that Miss Shelley was resisting by refusing to leave. Under Section 901.151 of the Florida statutes, quote, whenever any law enforcement officer of this state encounters any person under circumstances which reasonably indicate that such person has committed, is committing, or is about to commit a violation of the criminal laws of this state, the officer may temporarily detain such person for the purpose of ascertaining the identity of the person temporarily detained. Therefore, if a court decided that Miss Shelley was resisting by refusing to leave, it would likely also determine that Deputy Crawford was within.
And if you refused, because you chose to stay in this situation, so now I want your ID. So now I want your ID. And if you refuse to give it to me, then we'll go sit in my car. Okay?
What law is that?
By not providing, you're failing to identify to a law enforcement officer. Okay?
But I have to identify if I'm being detained.
Yes, because you.
Then you have to have a reason to detain.
So listen, I'm not playing this game. I'm going to come over and we're going to get out of your car.
Sir, you can call your sergeant.
You can get out of the car.
Call your sergeant. I would like a supervisor, please.
You can get out of the car right now, or I can help you out of the car. Or you can just give me your...
That's assault, because I've not broken
It's not
the
assault.
law.
You're impeding this traffic stop.
How am I impeding
because it has nothing to do with you. I asked you to leave. You refused.
The only reason why I pulled over is because my sister does not know my new residence, and
I
she
told
got
you
pulled
you could go.
over.
And I told you could go wait up there in that parking lot. Okay, you both have cell phones.
What is the problem?
Because now you won't identify. First, you won't do a simple thing I asked you to do.
I'm telling you, I'm her sister, and I know that that's what she has told him by now.
Okay, that has nothing to do with what's going on back there.
Okay, and I'm not interfering with you doing what you men have to do.
No, you are. By stopping here, he does not want you here. Because now
Why?
Because he has no idea what you're going to do. You don't think we dealt with situations where the person in this car all of a sudden... I don't know that.
Military.
I don't give a... I don't give a... And
okay.
now I'm getting mad because we have no idea what your intentions...
Okay, I will pull up, but I will be calling the police department. I would like your badge number.
I'll give you my card.
Please
okay?
do.
I've been so nice. I gave you multiple opportunities.
You're cussing at me and you're
because I'm done with you.
rude.
Yeah.
So you want to cuss at me? I can cuss at you.
All day long. All day long.
That I have not been rude to you. I was sitting here in my
And I have not until you started refusing. So I still need your ID.
But I was
I need your ID.
What you
I need your ID.
me for, that's it.
I need your ID because you chose, because you're interfering with this. We don't want you here. It's not.
I will comply with your ID request, but you are not going about this correctly.
It's all on film.
Good. Hi, I'm glad.
And we'll see how it escalated to this because of your non-compliance.
No, it did not escalate because of my non-compliance. I asked you questions, you refused to answer, and
I did answer.
Supposed to answer them.
I don't need
You did not tell me what I was going to be detained for. You did not tell me why I needed to identify myself.
For failing to do what we asked you to do. So now you chose to be here. Now I need to make sure that we are safe.
I was doing absolutely nothing wrong, and I'm allowed to be on a public road.
You're not allowed to impede.
I'm not impeding.
Because you stopped when I stopped.
I didn't get out of my. You.
Shut the door for your own safety.
No.
All right, fine. Do whatever you want.
Miss Shelley eventually decides to give Deputy Crawford her ID, and as he turns to leave, he attempts to shut the door. Miss Shelley prevents the door from closing, and Deputy Crawford briefly attempts to force her door closed, quote, for her own safety, end quote, before giving up and walking away. As the Supreme Court explained in the 1976 case of Katie versus Dombrowski, in addition to their duties to enforce the law, police officers also serve, quote, community caretaking functions, which allow them to take actions that are, quote, totally divorced from the detection, investigation, or acquisition of evidence relating to the violation of a criminal statute in order to protect citizens. A prime example of one of these functions is a welfare check, where an officer may take warrantless action, such as detaining an individual or entering their home to ensure their safety. As the First District Florida Court of Appeals recognized in the 2021 case of Taylor v. State, quote, welfare checks fall under the community caretaking doctrine, which recognizes the duty of police officers to ensure the safety and welfare of the citizenry at large. Under this judicially created doctrine, law enforcement actions that might otherwise violate the Fourth Amendment can be found lawful when they occur in connection with an officer's community caretaking functions. However, community caretaking does not give officers a free pass to violate the Fourth Amendment, and the Taylor Court explained that, quote, because searches and seizures conducted in connection with welfare checks are solely for safety reasons. The scope of an encounter associated with a welfare check is limited to prevent the exception from becoming an tool that circumvents the Fourth Amendment. For example, in the 2016 case of State v. Fultz, the Second District Florida Court of Appeals held that, quote, given Central Florida's temperate weather in November, an open door at 8 o'clock in the morning without more cannot justify a warrantless entry based on a feared medical emergency or the community caretaker function. If Deputy Crawford was truly attempting to close the door out of concern for Miss Shelley's safety, his conduct was likely a valid exercise of community caretaking. However, Miss Shelley was also within her rights to prevent the door from closing and keep it open.
Hello, ma'am. I'm Sergeant Nick.
Hi, Sergeant.
So I watched the interaction. So from the start, you aren't allowed to be stopped here. If you are interfering with any kind of investigation, you can be detained at that point too and identified as a person. You cannot just stop on the side of the road because somebody else stopped, even if you know her sister, brother, or son.
Sergeant Nix approached Miss Shelley's vehicle, cordially explained the deputy's reason for ordering her to leave, gave her a business card, and informed her of the process for filing a complaint. He also briefly conversed with Miss Boone and assured her that the body camera footage would be reviewed. Although Miss Boone was not allowed to drive her vehicle, the traffic stop ended without anyone being arrested. After footage of the incident was circulated on YouTube, Sheriff Bob Johnson of the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office issued a statement apologizing for Deputy D'Souza and Deputy Crawford's behavior, and assuring that they would be punished and extensively retrained because of this incident. Both deputies were ordered to complete 440-hour courses for a total of 160 hours of paid training focusing on how to handle traffic stops. Deputy Crawford will also be required to take an additional class on professionalism and dealing with citizens. Overall, the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's deputies get AB- because although they were likely within their authority to order Miss Shelley to leave the scene and detain and identify her for refusing, they failed to properly de-escalate the situation, maintained a rude and unprofessional demeanor, and improperly invoked the community caretaking function of their authority. There is no denying that the deputies were right about the legality of their orders to leave and their authority to detain and identify Miss Shelley, and there is a legitimate argument to be made that the deputies could have lawfully arrested her. All that said, just because an officer's conduct is lawful doesn't necessarily mean that it is ethical, logical, or productive. Rather than engaging in a heated debate with Miss Shelley, ultimately forcing her to comply under threat of arrest, one of the deputies could have simply stood by her vehicle to ensure that she was not a threat as another deputy carried out the traffic stop, which is ultimately what they decided to do anyway. Unfortunately for members of law enforcement, dealing with angry and frustrating citizens is a major aspect of their duties, and possessing the ability to maintain a professional attitude in any given scenario is a necessary skill that all officers must develop in order to establish and cultivate a positive relationship with their community, as mentioned earlier. The courts often grant officers a considerable degree of leniency to do whatever is necessary to ensure their safety while operating within the bounds of their authority and the law. And just as this discretionary power can be used to issue commands and compel identification, it can also be used to establish positive relationships and mutual compromise. Miss Shelley also gets AB- because although it is clear that Miss Shelley lacked a thorough understanding of the laws relevant to this interaction, she remained calm and collected throughout the encounter, rightfully questioned. The conduct of Deputy Crawford and followed up this interaction with the proper channel of complaint. As mentioned on many episodes of ATA, it is unreasonable to expect every citizen in the United States to possess a deep understanding of the legal nuance surrounding public property, free speech, and civilian rights in general. Miss Shelley was not a First Amendment auditor, and the questions that she was attempting to ask Deputy Crawford were legitimate and essential to the circumstances at hand. Instead of taking the time to explain himself or provide any useful information to Miss Shelley, Deputy Crawford simply operated on the logic that he's a police officer issuing a lawful order that must be obeyed. While I commend Miss Shelley for having the courage to stand up for her rights and the diligence to follow up this encounter, I would caution citizens in a similar position to invoke their right to remain silent and comply with the commands of the officers. Regardless of the attitude of the deputies, Miss Shelley likely could have been lawfully arrested for obstruction by refusing to leave the scene or move in any capacity. As mentioned in many episodes of ATA, it is much more productive to fight your battle against injustice. Thank you very much for watching the video. Subscribe our channel for next video.